Hello gainers, I'm Ralphie. Welcome to my channel Fitter Philosophy, which is putting some practical, stoic, life experience fitness into the philosophy and philosophy into the fitness so as to get a better quality of life. And one of the ways we can improve our quality of lives is to communicate and speak and engage with people around us who have increased their quality of life. And that's what my video is about, as I enjoy the coastal fresh sea breeze coming off the Irish Sea there, here on a nice bright sunny day, making the most of it after about a week's worth of grey cloud and intermittent rain showers. When we miss the sunshine, we need to rediscover the sunshine and connect with it. And as well, seeing that many people are now supplementing with vitamin D capsules to try and compensate for the lack of the body's own ability to make this valuable vitamin because of the lack of sunlight. Anyway, to my subject. I'm going to tell you about Sandra, known as Sandy. We'll call her Sandy. She doesn't like her Sunday name. And I was chatting to Sandy recently because she's a big whiskey fan, and she has just filled a van full of a few worldly possessions that she has: bed, table, chairs, all neatly folded up, all dismantled. And she has driven up the west coast of Scotland to her new home. And she's very excited about it. She's been telling me all about it, and I want to share it with you because it's a very good example of someone who, rather than feeling like a victim of circumstance, has looked around at a situation they're in and taken sudden and very positive action to take control of their lives and to do something. And this is what Sandy's done. She worked for local government, and recently they had some redundancy options. Now, despite the fact that she's in her mid-40s, a divorcee, I'm sure she wouldn't mind people knowing that, she had what you would call a relatively successful career, and it was going along fine, but she felt that she was unfulfilled. And particularly with the loss of some of her relatives, some of her older relatives, who she felt had not fulfilled their lives given the opportunities that they potentially had, she wanted to be very much aware of it in her own life and avoid their mistakes. So she's got a redundancy package. She's removed it all from the bank because she doesn't believe the banks are going to hold up. It's just her opinion. And she sold her house, small house, bungalow, so relatively easy to sell. Sold it to a local businessman who was looking to protect their own assets. She loaded her van with a few cases of whiskey as well, and she bought a small cottage, traditional cottage, somewhere relatively remote up in the west coast of Scotland. And about 3 weeks ago she drove up there, and she already has been online and got a part-time job helping out another business. Basic pay, but she doesn't care. And she's created a whole new life for herself, a whole new environment, a whole new group of friends, although there won't be that many because it's a remote rural area, but she doesn't mind. I think she's been incredibly brave about it, but she's really gone the whole way. She's put herself off the grid, so to speak, so she doesn't have an electricity supply. The water's coming from a local stream, but now she's discovered there is a stoned over well not far from the cottage, which has probably been covered for over 100 years. She's aware that although the cottage is watertight, it is old, The window frames are rotting, the doors are needing secured, all these little things that are going to keep her over the winter. But already she's reached a deal to swap her labour in exchange for someone to make her new windows, to rebuild her a door, and then she's going to buy a lock online and get it delivered to her. So really, really interesting times for Sandy. I really wish her well. I think that typically she doesn't know what she's letting herself in for, but it's probably just as well. I think she's been incredibly brave, and I think that her story is worth repeating to yourselves, gainers, so that you can be aware that sometimes when you hear about other people's stories, they're not ordinary, they're quite extraordinary. I've asked her how she felt about security and safety. She says it's not a problem. She's probably a lot more insecure in a city, the way things are going, than in a remote rural place where there's one road in and one road out, and that is it. She has a supply of candles. She has already sourced a supply of firewood for her stove so that she can cook on her stove. And it's interesting because after the conversation I went and had a look at the different videos out there of people who are going off the grid and doing the in the wilderness survival strategy stuff and building their log cabins literally from scratch. And there's a lot of work involved in this, but the immense psychological satisfaction and empowerment must be enormous. And at a time when so many people are getting stressed out, even though the worst is yet to happen, and getting anxious and over-prescribing themselves and medications from all different sources, I think there's so much to be learned by looking out with the theatrical stage in front of our lives at the less obvious characters, the personalities who do things differently, who see things differently, and who behave differently. Because there's much to be learned from these people. People like Sandy, someone who I know, and she's at not a great time in her life, but she's really chosen to embrace a new course. She's been very brave about it. I really wish her well, and to be honest, I think that once she reacclimatizes to her new reality, I think she'll do fine. And as for her quality of life, without the shops being at hand, without the police being available, fire, ambulance, all the rest of it, I think that she's going to find that really isn't a big issue. It really isn't, because for the lack of urban amenities, they are more than compensated for by the new discovered empowering wonders of living remotely and off the grid and not being reliant on anyone. You know, very, very low rates. She's bought the cottage. It's such a small cottage that it didn't cost her much. She's storing her wealth in other options. She's keeping it out of the system in practical ways. Silver, obvious example. Excuse me, getting a bit gusty here. And what an interesting story. I just wanted to share it with you, and in fact, before too long I'm going to share another story with you. We're going to visit Dan. I'm arranging this at the moment, who's living off the grid very near where I am. And we're going to hear what he has to say for himself, to see what he sees the shortcomings and the advantages. And I think you might be very pleasantly surprised at how easy it is to disconnect from the matrix. And it's something more and more people, more and more now, are giving more serious thought to. Just sharing. I'm Ralphie. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to leave you with a beautiful sunlit sea view, blue sky, blue sea. These are precious, particularly when we're in more industrial environments, and they have their certain charm and beauties, but you can't beat a good old sun-drenched sea view, particularly in winter time, which it is here where I am. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, likey, clicky bell stuff, and we'll see you soon. Gainers, bye bye.